Okay, I'm going to go over the steps for completing Module 5, SAM Project 1A. So this is our first project in Access. So the first thing we want to do for step 1 is create a query, and we want to base that query on the client table. So I'm going to go over here and look at my list of tables. So we see that we have billing, client, employee, location, and trainer. So to create a query based on one of those tables, we need to go to the Create tab and we want to click on Query Design. And this will pull over our list of tables. So we want to select the client table, and we can double click it or we can select it and click Add, either one. So I have it selected and I'm going to click Close. I'm just going to drag down to make sure I'm seeing all of the fields in that table. So for this query, it wants us to display the following fields in this order. So we want to see client ID first, last, address, city, state, zip, phone, birth date, and gender. And of course you can double click these and it moves them, or you can click and drag. So either method works. Alright, so for this query, we actually want to add an expression so that we only are viewing phone numbers that has the area code 716. So to do that, we need to go down to our phone field, and in the criteria, I'm going to put my insertion point, and I'm going to go up to my design tab, my query tools design tab, and I'm going to click on builder. So here I can type the expression like, and this is just going to pull any phone numbers that has this 716, and then I'm going to put the wildcard because anything after 716 doesn't matter. So we should only see phone numbers that have that 716 area code. So I want to click OK. And then we want to do one other thing. We want to sort this in ascending order by client last name. Alright, so I have that sort filter added, and now we want to save it, and we want to name it QRY 716 area code. And be sure you're naming these exactly as it is in the instructions and that you're spelling them correctly, because it will be counted wrong, even if the query name is misspelled. So I'm going to click OK, and now I want to run that query. And when I run that query, I should only see my clients listed in alphabetical order by last name, and I should only see phone numbers with that 716 area code. So it looks like we have that right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that query and move on to the next query. So the next one we want to create, we want to base it on the client table. So again, we want to go to the Create tab, Query Design, and I clicked it too many times, but that's fine. And now we want to select that client table. So I'm just going to double click it, and then I want to close this window. Again, I'm going to drag down so that I'm seeing all of those files or fields. Alright, so the fields we want to see for this query is client ID, first, last, address, city, state, zip, phone, birth date, and gender. So again, we want to see everything. And on this one, we want to add a condition to find records in the table in which the city field values are not Buffalo, Perry, or Castile. So we need to create our criteria expression in the city field. So I have my insertion point there, and again, I want to just go up to my design tab and click on builder. And on this expression, we want to type in not in, and we want to put it in parentheses, and then we also want to put quotation marks because we want it to be exact. Buffalo, put a comma, then quotation marks Perry, quotation marks comma, and then quotation marks Castile. And then we want to close that parenthesis. And if you want to look at a detailed list of some of the expressions you can use in your query criteria, you can click the link here in the expression builder box, has a lot of good info. So if you aren't that comfortable with building these expressions, I encourage you to look at that criteria and review some of the many things you can do in Access. So once you have this information typed in, we can go ahead and click OK. And it also wants us to sort our query in ascending order by city field. So I'm just going to click on my sort cell, put it in ascending, and now we can click on our save button or our save tool, and we can name this query not Buffalo, Perry, and Castile. So I'm going to click OK, and then I want to run this, and then I can just verify that none of the cities that are on this query are in the cities that we did not want to see. So they're not. So I'm going to go ahead and close this query. And I'm going to move on to step 3. So we want to create yet another query. This time we want to base it on the employee table. So I'm going to go to my Create tab, Query Design, and sorry, my phone's ringing. And then I want to click on the employee table. And I'm going to close this window, and I'm going to, again, I'm going to expand that so I can see all of the fields. So this time we want to actually use a list of values to match the selection criteria. So we want this to be exact values. So the first thing we need to do is choose our fields that we want to be in our query. So that's employee ID, location ID, first, last, title, and monthly salary. So again, we're using all of the fields. And we want to sort this query in descending order by monthly salary. So I'm going to go ahead and put my sort in, but I also need to add my criteria. So my criteria for this one is, so I have my insertion point, or my insertion point in the criteria cell, and I'm going up to the expression builder. And this time I want to put in, and then in parentheses, now I can just put my values, comma, 1850, comma, and 3550. And notice that when we are using numeric values, we don't have to put those in the quotation marks like we do the text values. So we can go ahead and click OK. And we have our criteria down here now. And so we can go ahead and click on our Save tool. And we want to call this query Query Select Salaries. And we want to go ahead and click OK. And now we can run this query. And when we look at this query, we now have these monthly salaries in a descending order, and we're only seeing the salaries in the range that we wanted to see. So we can go ahead and close this query. And we can move on to step 4. So we want to create yet another query, and we want to base it on the trainer table. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create, and I'm going to click on my query design, and now I'm going to go down to trainer table, close this window, and again I'm going to pull down so that I can see all of the fields. So on this one, we only want to use the location, specialty, and certification fields. So location, specialty, and certification. And we want to sort this query in ascending order by location. So I'm going to go ahead and put my sort in. And then we want to add a calculated field name, trainer name, as the first column. So we already have our 3 columns here. So to add another column, or to add a first column, we're actually going to have to insert a column. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Insert. And then in the field name here, I'm just going to go ahead and start building my expression. So what we want to do is we want to concatenate text, and all that basically means is that we want to string 2 separate fields together into one field. So typically we can only have one field in each column. This time we want to put two different fields in the same column. So to do that, first of all, we have to type in what we want it called. So we want to call that trainer name, and then we want to put a colon, and then we can type in first, and this is for first name, and notice that we have first name over here in our table. And so we want to put a space, and then in quotation marks, I'm sorry, we need to put and. So we need to put the symbol for and first, and then we want to put in a quotation mark. And we want to put a space and put in another quotation mark. So that Access recognizes that we want a space between our first and last name. So we need to put another and symbol in, and now we can type in last. And go ahead and click OK. So here the field name will be the trainer name first and last. So we want to go ahead and save this query. So we'll go up here to our Save tool, and we want to call this Query Trainer Specialties. I always have to double check to make sure I'm spelling it right. And I think I have too many. Oh, I think I do have it right. No, I have it wrong. Specialties. Okay, so now I'm going to click OK, and now I want to run this query. And we should only, well, we should see the specialty, the certification, but now we should see the trainer name. So notice that's the title of our field here now. And then we should see all the trainer names together in one column. Okay, so that's what we wanted, so we can go ahead and close this. And for step 5, we want to create a parameter query. So all of the queries we've created before, we've just been using the query design. This time we're going to use the query wizard. And with the query wizard, we can create a query just like we could if we were using query design. So I'm just going to use the simple query wizard. So I'm going to click OK, and it's asking us which table we're going to base our query on. So for this one, we want to base it on the trainer table. So I'm just in this drop-down box, I'm going to find trainer. And then we can select the fields that we want to use. So on this one, we want to use location first, last. So we have location first, last. We want specialty and certification. And so we can go ahead and click next. And we want to go ahead and modify this query. So I'm going to change the radio button to modify the query design and click finish. So essentially it does the same thing. Maybe it's a little easier to select the fields on this one, I'm not sure. So it's just whatever your preference is. Okay, so on the certification field, in the criteria for certification, so we want to put our insertion point there, and we want to go to our expression builder. And this time, we want to type in a like, and in bracket, so because we're going to add a parameter, we want to type in enter the certification, and we want that in lowercase. And then we want to close that bracket, and we want to put and then we want to put in quotation marks our space or our asterisks, so that we have that wildcard character. So essentially what this is telling Access is that someone can type in the certification that they're looking for, but if they don't, which is where the wildcard character comes in, if they don't, it will pull all of the certifications. So go ahead and click OK. And we want to sort this in ascending order by the last field. So go over here to ascending order last, and let's go ahead and save this query. So because I used the query design or the query wizard, I skipped the step on naming the query, so we'll actually have to rename it at the end. So we'll go ahead and skip that for now, but let's go ahead and hit run. So when you hit run, you should get this little pop-up window that says enter parameter value. So to test our parameter to make sure that we have it right, let's type in NATA and go ahead and click OK. So notice here in the certification it only pulled records that have the NATA. So if we switch back to design view again and we hit run again, and let's not put any value in this time, hit enter, notice that it pulls everything. So that's what we wanted it to do. And now we can close this. And we want to make sure we come over here to our query and we want to right click it and we want to rename this one. And this one we want to call query certification parameter. Okay. So step 6, we want to create a find duplicates query based on the table client or on the client table with the following options. So this time we want to use the wizard again because the wizard specifically has options for running a query that finds duplicates. So I'm going to select that query and I'm going to click OK. And the first thing it wants us to do is select the client table. So let me select client and I'm going to select next. And we want to select the address field. And we want to go ahead and select next. And here on we want to the fields we want to show is client ID, first, last, and phone. Okay, and then we want to click next, and here we can name our query. So we have this in black, so we can go ahead and just start typing in there when we want to call this query duplicate household. And we want to go ahead and view those results. So I'm going to click finish. And you should have 4 records that share the same address. So that's what this query did, was pull any clients that have the same address. Okay, so step 7. So we can go ahead and close this query. We want to create a find unmatched query. So again, I think we can use the query wizard and use the find unmatched query. So we'll go ahead and click OK. And for this one, we want to use the trainer table. So again, go back and find our trainer table. And we want to find where there's no matching record in the billing table. So for the trainer table and the billing table, we want to find if there's no matching records. So the first thing I want to do is display the trainer ID, and then in the available fields, we want to select trainer ID, location ID, first, last, and hire date. And so we want to go to next, and we want to save this query as query trainers without matching billing. Okay, and then we're going to open it to see. And so all of the folks on this list, for whatever reason, does not have a matching billing account. So, all right, so we can go ahead and close this. Now for step 8, we want to create a query to display all fields from the table or from the employee table in the following order. So this one I'm just going to use query design. I want to click on employee, add. I'm going to close this window, and so I want to have these fields. So employee, location, first, last title, and monthly salary. So essentially all of the fields. And we want to have it sorted in descending order by monthly salary. So we want to do descending order by monthly salary. And we only want to use the top 5 values. So to do that, we can actually just go up here to our design tab, and in the return, right now it's going to return all values, and we have the option to choose 5, 25, 100, or percentages, but we want to just see the top 5 values. So once we do that, now we can go ahead and save our query, and we want to call this one query top 5 salaries. And I'm going to click OK, and now when we hit run, we should only see 5 records. Okay, so we can go ahead and close this query.